Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with a hot take on some of the news stories, the non-political news stories we're going to do first. Then we're going to get into the politics in the final video. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Please check me out on BitChute and Parler. I don't know how long. I've already been demonetized. I don't know how long they'll leave me on here before they've deleted videos. They've done all kinds of things to me. So definitely check me out on BitChute and Rumble. Links in the description for my various books, comics, and fun stuff. Now, Parler's new hosting provider bans undefined hateful content, says Parler's new algorithm will police platforms sufficiently. Parler's back, and they seem to be censoring. Not as much as Twitter, not with cancel culture, but with, I guess, this algorithm. Maybe this is the first test of something that is fair, in quotes, fair in that they just punch in the data and just let the algorithm do the work, and if you break it, you're out, and if you don't, you're in, I guess. Milo Yiannopoulos already tested the limits and got himself banned, so I don't know if he'll be back. I don't know if this is the right way to do it. I think getting a computer to do it, I don't know. Depends on what all the variables are, I guess. Kind of makes it a little less exciting than Gab, where there is no censorship. So, while this is better than Twitter, I don't think it's better than Gab. Just my opinion. But good luck to Parler. Glad to have you back. I am on Parler. You can follow me there. You can follow me on Gab. You can follow me in a million places. Links in the description. Something I won't be following is NASCAR. NASCAR implements multiple social justice theme changes to the new season. Well, that sport's done. I don't know how many people need to learn this. Get woke, go broke. And I can't think of an audience less receptive to social justice warriors than the NASCAR people. I mean, seriously? You think this is a good idea, college-educated execs of NASCAR? No, this is a very, very dumb idea. And this is going to kill your audience. It's going to kill it. Is there other racing leagues other than NASCAR? I think we're going to see people go to them. And again, this is all corporate. This is all corporate run. And the corporations have said, get with this wokeness or you get nothing. We're taking everything because they own everything already. They own NASCAR. They own movies. They own comics. They own video games. They own it all. And they're taking it away from you and ruining it unless you get on board with the wokeness. And not only get on board with it, but praise it and call it wonderful and woke. They're that desperate to make this work. I say, and this is just my personal opinion, and understand that I have no interest in NASCAR of any kind, but I would abandon them. I would watch them fall, and hopefully they'll come to their senses before they completely break the sport and ruin it for everybody. Speaking of sports, schools sued for canceling coach who protested extremist race studies. Yeah, I mean, this is in Massachusetts, and he was a high school football coach. And now he's been fired because he doesn't like what his 7th grade daughter was learning in school. It was all racially based nonsense, probably critical race theory, probably 1619 Project stuff. And the class was called World Geography and Ancient History, which taught issues of race, gender, stereotypes, prejudices, and discrimination in politics. Ancient History 1 should not be teaching that. That is a terrible, terrible slant. Now, if it was modern history, maybe. But it sounds more like a gender studies class or one of these woke classes. These people won't stop. They won't stop at colleges. Because understand, what does colleges create? It creates teachers. That's one of the things colleges create. They graduate and they go right into teaching the same stuff. And colleges have become a radicalizing ground for people. And it was that way even in the 80s to a smaller extent. But it was a slow burn. And the idea, and we talked about this in Wokeistan, is you're not a serious intellectual unless you protest. You're just not serious. You're not a serious, smart person. You're not a real liberal. You're not a true person unless you're part of the solution. And the solution is always to protest. You know, I watch this channel on YouTube called Meme. And it's about NPCU, and the various characters are all NPC. And every time the professor asks them, well, what do you want to do today, class? They always say the same thing. I think we should protest, because it's all college people think about, because they think that's cool. And it all goes back to the 60s when it was cool. It was cool to protest in the 60s and maybe early 70s. But then, you know, the Vietnam War was over, and it was time not to do that anymore. But the people who became radicalized in that era said, oh, we did it wrong. We have to do more radicalizing, and the next generation will get it right somehow. And it's this idea that young people should be constantly, overturning the status quo because it's all wrong. But if you listen to James Lindsay and Jordan Peterson to some extent, you'll hear that these people within academia have been radicalized by these French postmodernists who believed in tearing down everything, but they have no plan to build anything back up. They just think, well, if we tear everything down, we'll be in charge, so it'll be great. Yeah, I guess for them, until someone kills them. But so this is all trickling down from the colleges into the high schools, into the grammar schools, because most of these teachers are extremely left-leaning. At least in the United States they are. They're all Democrats, 100%. They're all super hardcore union supporters. And you cannot, very few of them are conservative. Very few. And the conservatives hide. Because they know if they're found out as a conservative, or God forbid speak openly about their political views, their careers are over. And they'll be done. And yes, they will gang up on them. It's a little bit like a clique of girls that if someone has a differing opinion, they immediately oust them. Because it is mostly women. It's part of the reason women have overtaken the teaching profession in the United States. They've just completely overrun it. And it's bad because it's too one-sided. Just like learning everything from the left is too one-sided, it's also too one-sided just to learn from women. Because there are certain things men just teach better. And one of them is discipline. Women tend to nurture too much. And they over-nurture these kids. In my view, that's part of the problem. But I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent. Let's continue. Stephen Moore, beer virus, remote learning. Why aren't schools, districts giving taxpayers their money back? Because they won't. Because they're going to be spending it on something else. Because they were running in the red anyway. Look at the Philadelphia school system. Every year they announce they've got a huge budget shortfall. Why? They're not getting more kids. If anything, they have fewer kids. It's all because the school districts are the last things the city wants to fund. And they cut them short, and, they play at wanting education, and then they don't deliver. And everything gets more and more expensive. This is why school systems need to be privatized. And they will be eventually. Eventually they'll collapse and they'll have to privatize them. But as for now, they're just a wreck. They're just an absolute wreck. I mean, you're worried about kids not going back to school. The main thing kids need is that socialization. That's the main thing they're getting. The downside of it is almost everything else because they're not really getting an education. When your kid is being sent to learn from ideologues who just fresh out of college or teach can't wait to teach critical race theory because they think they're saving the world. All they end up doing is teaching the kids their own version of racism. It's a disaster. UK regulator stops BLM registering as a political party, likely to mislead voters, according to the regulator. Britain's Electoral Commission has rejected efforts to register Black Lives Matter as a political party on the grounds that it would be likely to mislead voters. Yeah, I could see that. Look, Black Lives Matter is an American invention, and it's really supposed to be about the race relations in America, but it's somehow spread to Europe. Well, you gave us Antifa, and now we gave you Black Lives Matter. And they've kind of merged in a weird way, or they kind of feed off of each other because, Antifa wants to radicalize everybody and topple the state. Black Lives Matter helps in that. So they feed into each other in that the Black Lives Matter guys seem to think it's okay that because they're also trained Marxists, as the leaders of BLM stated, they think it's okay that communism be put in place. And the Antifa guys are all about that. They're all about tearing down the state and then essentially replacing it with their own guys, which would be a disaster because these people are beyond woke. They're so woke that they're just radicals. That's all they are. You look at the guy who attacked the ICE facility in, I guess it was Texas or somewhere down south. He just attacked it all by himself. He threw a Molotov cocktail. He started shooting at the building. He could have ended up killing the immigrants. He wasn't freeing them, and then they had to put him down. It's another one of these guys, and they were all around in the late 60s and early 70s. Hey, we're going to start a revolution. And then they get frustrated and they go, well, I'll start it if nobody else will. You'll see. Once I do this, everybody will start revolting, and it'll be a nationwide thing. They think they can jumpstart the revolution by suddenly shooting up a building or whatever. It's not the way it works. The George Floyd thing was mostly spontaneous. It was exacerbated by certain forces, I have no doubt, but it was mostly spontaneous. It was mostly because of the video. It was a very moving video. Whether, later we understood that it wasn't as moving as we thought it was. It was, George wasn't just some innocent waif who got killed by a cop. He was a drug addict, an ex-criminal or current criminal, hard to tell, who was suffering from an overdose and losing his damn mind in the process. He was begging the cops. He said to the cops, one of the first things he said to him was, I can't breathe. Before they even touched him, before they even asked him a question. And then he begged them to put him, have him take him out of the car and put him on the ground. They should have just left him in the car. At least then they would have been, they would have been okay. They wouldn't have been able to blame the cops for his death. They probably would have anyway, but at least you wouldn't have that horrible footage of him begging for his life. But he was out of it to begin with. He had taken a huge dose, a lethal dose of fentanyl. But none of that matters to BLM or Antifa. They're just charging ahead like it doesn't matter. The truth doesn't matter to these people. All that matters is that they win and they get the power. Because their attitude is, once we get the power, everything will be great. It, of course, won't be, but that won't stop them. Look at what happened in Minneapolis. I talked about it yesterday. We're going to defund the police and everything will be great. They didn't even get halfway to that goal, and everything exploded, and now they got to rehire the cops. This is the same sort of thing. These people won't get halfway through their agenda. They won't get a tenth of the way through their agenda. The only reason they were allowed to run amok is because Democrats allowed them to. And now that they're done with Antifa, they're also done with Black Lives Matter, too. And the moment you raise a finger against the Democratic Party, they'll squish you. So go ahead, BLM. I dare you. Extremely dangerous weather Grid chaos sparks outages across 15 states, spreads to Mexico. This is one of the reasons we don't want the Chinese being involved with our electrical grid. It's also one of the reasons we need to spend some. I mean, the one thing we need to spend money on in infrastructure is the electrical grid. It's a big friggin' mess. And these idiots who want to immediately flip over to green energy, like it's not going to be a big deal. Well, welcome to the big deal. The big deal is like half of Texas doesn't have any heat now. Because you idiots decided, oh, we're going to go to turbines and that'll be great. Yeah, now all the turbines are frozen. They gotta fuel up helicopters to fly up there and pour chemicals all over the blades just to get them rolling again. Meanwhile, where's all your green energy? You're wasting it. You can't have totally green energy yet. The technology's just not there. I mean, I don't know what's so hard to figure out. Do you have to destroy people's lives and businesses just to know the facts? Anybody with a half of a brain in math could have figured this out. It was gonna happen. It just takes one bad disaster. So why can't we have both? Why can't you have wind power and have gas and as a backup? No, we gotta go green. We gotta go green. Everything must be green. Green by 2030 or we're all gonna die. Yeah, we were all supposed to be underwater by 2012. 2030 will come and go and they won't even remember this prediction. The statewide outages are because you're idiots. It's because the Chinese are pushing this. This is exactly what they want to have happen. Because then they can come in with their big solar farms or whatever and say, oh, well, our company can fix all your problems. We'll give you great green energy. Our technology is great. Meanwhile, they're building it in the most polluted country in the world, shipping over all the solar cells made by slave labor. Oh, but the liberals, they'll get the green energy, so it's all okay. Finally, a positive story. Church offers to pay $38,000 in lunch debts for school districts. Tampa, Florida. A church in Lutz is giving local families some peace of mind by wiping out lunch debt for students at Hillsborough and Pasco County. That's nice. That's $21,367.33 to the students at Hillsborough, and another $17,000 to the students at Pasco. That's great. That's great. The pastor said the church wanted to show its support for local families during these uncertain times. Good for you. I don't know why they had so much lunch debt. Seems weird. Was that student lunch debt? Is this a poor county? Were they cutting off their food? I'd like to know a little bit more, but I think it's a very positive thing. This is how charity groups can work and help people. People say, oh, you can't fill the gap with charity. You could if you really lowered the taxes to nothing, to next to nothing. So it's nice. It's nice. And people bash churches all the time. Well, here's one that did something nice. So there you go. All right, that's it for now. Come back with another video.